Good morning, everybody. Welcome to POS Mornings. Bobby, how's your Monday?
Pretty good, buddy. How about you?
Oh, splendid. It's nice. It was beautiful out yesterday in Connecticut. It was raining on what the Saturday was gross. Sunday was beautiful, and today's just like I don't know, like partly nipple. You know what I mean? Like a little chilly, but a little warm.
Yeah, it feels like a real spring day here as well. Saturday, I thought for sure I was going to die going to a gig that was not worth dying for. Like, it was so
What
foggy
gig's
on
worth dying for?
probably the Comedy Zone in Harrisburg, Scotty's Comedy Cove in New Jersey, Mohegan Sun Comics. I don't have a large standard of things I'm willing to die for. It's just this was not worth it. This was
Oh, I
so
wouldn't
far
die for
down.
any of those. I like being alive the whole time.
I tried to pick shitty gigs on purpose.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Speaking of this weekend in shows and you, kind of all together, Friday I had a show with a comic buddy of mine, Giancarlo Biondino, very funny comic, but also has a very cool and starting to become popular Instagram page where he does cooking with comedy and stuff of that nature. And he's a baker. So I
That
asked
son
him,
of a bitch.
well, I asked him, I said, my friend Bobby is making I'm sorry, not croissants, making, what are they, cannolis.
Yeah,
And
I
I
was
said,
gonna
but
say, how dare you?
he's doing it gluten free. And he goes, almond flour? And I said, I don't know if that's what he's using. He goes, if he's not using almond flour and he's using anything else, he's not going to get the results he wants. Almond flour is not as good, but that's the only thing you can use that's gluten free that's going to make it anything like a cannoli.
Well, I obviously don't know Giancarlo, and I don't want to start a beef here, but your friend's a fucking idiot.
Why
They
is
make
that?
They make gluten-free baking powder, like baking.
No, he's
flour that you
saying
bake
for the
with.
flavor.
No,
He
I
said,
know, I
yes,
know,
they
I know.
no. He's saying they make it, but you're going to make garbage ones. They make a lot of stuff. They make ghetto Kool Aid. You still want Kool Aid instead of fucking the knockoff Kool Aid. You know what I'm saying? He's saying if you're going to use the other stuff, it's not going to be tasting as good.
Well, come taste them then, Giancarlo. I don't imagine walking
Why
into
would you
another
get
man's
angry at
household.
someone? I went to him for advice. You were complaining about it. All you have to say is, "Hey, thanks." If you don't use it, it's fine. But why be a dick? This is why I think people don't want to help you. You just want to
All right.
fight him
This
now,
is-
because you want to fight him on a Monday morning where I'm like, hey, buddy, I was thinking of you having a comedy show, and your problem with your cannoli, and it sounds like a sex move. It's not your cannoli
Yeah, that's-
problem. I
That-
went
maybe
to a
that's why
man,
I'm so
asked him about your
defensive.
cannoli
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. That's exactly why I'm so defensive, because this has been one giant innuendo the whole time, and now Giancarlo's telling me how to fix my cock.
He wasn't talking about your cock in any way, shape, or form. He
No,
was
almond flour is
literally letting
actually
you know.
that's a really good move. I heard that's one option, and then the other option is actually to take like maple syrup and add it to the mix for flavoring. But I would definitely be willing to give almond butter a try, or almond flour.
Do all of it.
My-
Almond butter, almond flour. Just make an almond fucking bisconti instead. How about that? Or biscotti. What's it called? Bisconti is a shittier version that wears a headband and tastes like shit. That's me. That's me. Nobody else. Boom. Take that. We'll battle that
No.
show.
For
In
him,
twat water. Fuck you. Anyway, go ahead.
could you ask Giancarlo how long typically the shells hold? Because the shells
I
have
will
come
next time I
together,
speak to him. So
but the filling, like you can't put the filling in until the day of, and the person they're made for has been sick for a minute. So I don't know how long the shells will last.
I've got to find his thing. His Instagram is, he actually is very funny with these videos. And I know a lot of people do the cooking thing and they're not. You say they're funny and they're not. I don't tolerate those well. His actually is pretty good because his humor's dark and funny, and he says you do actually laugh when you see it. What's it called? King.
While you pull that up, good morning, Johnny Benson. I see you in the chat. And Dominic, I see you're down 3.5 points. That's not good, but plenty of
He's
time.
down. Oh, we caught. Who caught him?
Oh, shit.
Who
That's-
caught him? Us?
His wife. No, his
Oh,
wife
no.
probably.
Why is it a 0.5? King Henry's Kitchen it's on King _ Henry's _ Kitchen. That's Giancarlo's cooking thing. It's really fucking good. Check it out. So
Yeah.
Good morning, Johnny Benson. Good morning, Dominic. Good morning, everybody. Before we bring our guest on quickly, we want to continue. For the last couple of weeks, we've been bringing you updates of Charlotte the Stingray. If once again you're not familiar, Charlotte the Stingray is the Immaculate Conception Jesus baby starfish. Stingray, sorry. That's happening in Henderson, North Carolina at the Echo Aquarium. It was a stingray that was only in captivity with sharks, and that was it. No other stingray for 8 years. And then somehow became pregnant. They're saying that, thank you very much, they became pregnant with, a baby, obviously, but without any sex or anything of nature. They said it was probably like the cells that split and all that way. But people are saying maybe it's a immaculate conception, maybe a shark slipped one in. They found out that's not that at all. Baby is not born yet, so they update their baby. Still, people anticipating the baby. They're still getting lines out the door every day, but the surrounding area is thriving because of this. Henderson itself is capitalizing on this. Down the street, there is a pet shop called Finn's on Fifth, and they this week had a birth of 15 chameleons, and all the children and parents that are just waiting for a baby to come. We're like, well, then if we're not going to see a stingray, let's fucking go. And they all went there. Now everybody gets to hold little chameleons and chill out with them as they're born and get to touch them. And they want that at the pet shop because these want to get these chameleons adopted when they're ready. They're getting used to human touch, so it's a good thing. But this place is like every day people have been coming in anyway to see like something because they're just like fired up. These kids are like, we want to see a fucking animal. So like the parents are like, all right, let's go to the pet shop. So now they're like, thank God we had these fucking 15 chameleons. So now they're busier than ever. And people are literally just going to this pet shop and just adopting and buying pets because they go there, they can't see a baby, and the kids are like, fucking give me something. So who's the piece of shit in this story? Is it the Charlotte the Stingray for like not just having a baby, just fucking don't you see the pressure that's going on here? Don't you see that you're starting, the baby is born? Let this thing out of you now. If you've been sitting around forever, can't you feel the people, the lines, everybody? Is it kids? When I was a kid, I could give a fuck about any animal being pregnant. I would never give a shit about an animal being pregnant. I know, like in like Nebraska and stuff, they get fired when a cow's gonna have a calf. That just means they're gonna have either a new worker or some veal. So that's why those kids get fired up. Kids in North Carolina, I know it's kind of hillbilly, but it's not enough to get fired up for that. Is it the Finns on Fifth? I don't think they're wrong in any way, but like, hey, you capitalize on stuff. But is it a little much to go, hey, now we'll whore out chameleon babies? And by the way, when they describe in the article how chameleon babies are born, I'm not psyched. It's a sack that pops out when the sack hits the ground. 15 things scurry. It's fucking terrifying. I don't want to see that at all. And they can't be adopted for a couple weeks, not until they can start blending in and doing the camouflage. That's why they got to just chill, but they can be touched and looked at right away. Is it Henderson? The whole town. They are now promoting this as like the birth of all animals, like their Noah's Ark 2. People are coming there from all over North Carolina and all over the South and traveling there for this event, which is not an event. It's literally staring at a pregnant thing. Or is it the chameleon mother for being such a fucking one-uppity bitch? She's like, fuck you, Charlotte, because no one knows this chameleon's name. And this is like, I'll birth out my baby. I got 15. Like, I don't know how many babies you're supposed to have when you're a chameleon, but that's some hoe numbers right there. 15? That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, unless you can get different semens in there all the time. Because I own cats, you can do that. You can have a cat can be pregnant, and another cat can fuck that cat again, and then both semens can go in, and you can have two separate babies in one litter from two different dads. I don't know if chameleons do that, but that's some hoe stuff. Who's the piece of shit in the story? Bobby, go ahead.
Fucking cats, based off of what you just told me.
I learned that the other day.
Bunch of fucking whores running around. Just, you can get me pregnant.
Blow another load
you can get me pregnant. Yeah, fucking. For me, it's Charlotte. The real hero in this story is actually the chameleon who decided to one-up Charlotte. Like, Charlotte, what do we know about Charlotte? She's a stingray that lives alone in a tank full of sharks. Like, she's a cunt already. She's an attention-seeking whore. She's got to be the center of attention. When they stop paying attention to her as the, ooh, look, it's the stingray in the shark tank, what does she do? She gets herself pregnant. I'm glad this chameleon one-upped her and had the baby. Fuck Charlotte. I don't even think she's really pregnant. I think she's faking the pregnancy, like that girl who did your junior year of high school.
Oh, my junior year of high school?
We all had that one chick who was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And then you were like, you've been pregnant since our freshman year. Shut the fuck up or have that baby.
Well, to be honest, we had worse. My senior year, there was a freshman girl who had a pregnancy that no one knew about, not even her. And when she felt like she had the baby, she did the move and she put it in a dumpster. We had That's dumpster baby lately. Yeah, we had.
Did they find the lady and the baby?
Well, it was pretty simple because it was the only Korean kid we had in our school.
Oh, very disrespectful.
Oh, so disrespectful. Dishonorable. Dumpster baby, they make your dreams come true.
Oh, man. Thank God somebody found that before it became fucking General Sal's.
Okay. I don't think the piece of shit. Yeah, that's gross. By the way, I don't think the piece of shit in the story is Charlotte. It's not. Charlotte can't help that it's being pimped out. I don't think it's the aquarium, or I don't think it's the pet shop, because they are businesses. It's, that business is just a need by supply thing. Yeah, aquariums do have people coming all the time, but this doesn't sound like one of those huge, like where I live, I get like Mystic or something like that, or like the Boston Aquarium. Not one of those monstrous aquariums. It sounds like more of a place where people, marine biologists and stuff, are studying things more than anything else. So I don't think they're used to having volume. So when they're getting this, I understand it. I understand the pet shop around it capitalizing. Why would you not? You're seeing lines by your place anyway. Let people know you want to see some animals and touch animals and do stuff. Come on in. So I get that 100%. You know what I mean? To me, the piece of shit in this story is anyone that would ever adopt a chameleon. Grow up. I don't know why do you want reptiles in your home? You're a psychopath. I know a lot of people go, no, they're loving. No, they're not. They're literally cold-blooded for a reason. They are not supposed to love you. They hate you. And a chameleon...
Amen.
Yeah, a chameleon is known for what? Hiding and lurking in the shadows. Why do you want that in your fucking house? If a guy lurks in the shadows, you call the police. You don't let him in. You don't adopt him with 14 of his brothers and let him chill out. The fact that you would go... A stingray is one thing. No one's going to adopt it. You're going to see a birth... But most people have never seen a stingray live. You're like, okay, this will be cool to see. There's a baby stingray. I'm sure it looks cute with a dumb little face on the belly and stuff. Whatever. A chameleon at no time, no matter what, looks cute. The second this thing hatched and oozed from its sack, fuck you, and pops out and starts scurrying, that's like the movie Alien. You don't need that shit in your life. You go in there to do that. I would go steal babies from other places, like if I was that pet shop, and pretend I had them there. You know what I mean? Like, here's a puppy I took from somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or I would just go steal babies. End of story. That's it. I'm just stealing babies. I'm trapped. Chameleons, now what happens is, now they're pumping it up and doing this. Now these poor parents are like, listen to their kids scream and have to go buy a chameleon for somebody, which is bullshit, because they don't want to no one knows how to take care of that. You got to Google it. It's going to be a creep, it's not going to be a chameleon expert. It's going to be a creep in a basement. You know what I mean? Nobody wants
absolutely. That. I'm with you 100%. Literally, it's called reptile brain, when you just react and attack. For a reason. You should not have those in our house. And let's not forget, the chameleons played a pivotal role in Charles Darwin's book on evolution. The Galapagos Islands really made it a problem. So I don't support chameleons at all for that reason, obviously.
And the lizard people have been taking over for a long time. And now this might just be 15 more of them coming in.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
I'm just bringing up the theory of it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that 15 of them have just shown up in Henderson, North Carolina. And now as we welcome our guest, Jennifer Richey. Hello, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Wonderful. I know you've been running around. Have you heard anything of our first story?
I have, yes. I have a lot to say.
Good. Then please weigh in.
So I'm listening to an audiobook by Joan Rivers now. She said, and this is how I kind of feel about it, like the only way I want to see a birth is if it's going backwards and everything's going back in to all the goo, going back in. I don't know. I'm not that interested in seeing the birth. I wasn't even interested in being at the birth of my kids. I was like, can we 1950s this? Can you just knock me out and just wake me up when it's all over? Here I was like C-section out, and they're handing you like this glob of goo. You're like, I'm supposed to love this thing. But could you focus on just making sure I don't die? That'd be great.
Right.
Which I'm sure that's how the stingray probably felt. She's like, get these kids out of here. I'm trying to make a stingray or 12.
And if you think about it, it's kind of the same thing, because nowadays, especially with Instagram and all that stuff, people want you to take pictures of you when you're pregnant. Here's me at 6 weeks. Here's me at 2 months. Here's me at 12, 9 months. And you're so you're basically being Charlotte anyway and putting yourself out there so people can just look at you get larger and anticipate the birth of a thing coming out of you, which is gross, because it just means people are thinking like, hey, she had sex. I wonder how it went. Like, that's what they're doing. They're just like, I want the update on what happened to her. She got filled up. Let's see what happens when it pours out. It's weird that we care.
I'm the opposite. I like the journey. I want to see the pre-journey. Like, I want to see Charlotte get pregnant. Like, let's see how that dance happened. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't
want
know
to
if you're
see
aware of the
baby
story.
coming out. I'm like, I'll just see the baby. That's fine. I don't need to
Right.
see the process. You know, it's like when
Right,
someone
but
gets a new knee. You're not like, wow, I'd like to see how they did that.
I would.
No, I just want to see you walking with the knee. Like, I think that I'm not. I don't have the stomach for it. I just never have. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
I
How she
don't
got
know if
pregnant
you're
from the
aware,
sharks?
but Charlotte, no one knows how the baby was born. That's the whole mystery where people are going, because it was in a tank with sharks for 8 years, and there was no other stingray. But now they're saying it was her own. She got herself pregnant. The egg split in a Genesis way, and now it made its own baby, like a clone of itself. And a lot of people are like, nope, a shark fucked it. And other people are like, nope, it's Jesus stingray. And they're not sure what. That's why the excitement is there. If more people, I think people would have watched Mary watching her going, how the fuck she get pregnant, and watched her in a tank too if it happened. I mean, Wise Men did come, a drummer boy did come. Bobby, go ahead.
One thing I just thought of. Do we
Yes.
know the successful birth rate of these egg-splitting pregnancies?
No, but there's at least 4 popping out of her, not just one. We keep saying one. It's going to be at least 4. So one might come out like retarded, one might be dead. We don't know.
I was going to say, there's a good chance all 4 don't make it, and all these kids just get their first trauma in life as they witness a stillbirth of 4 stingrays. Like, nobody's thought this through. They should isolate the stingray until after
Just wiggle the
babies are born.
tank a little bit. Like, they're fine, kids. Moving on.
Mom,
Yeah,
why is the
that's the-
stingray's upside down? Why is the stingray baby upside down?
Bobby, they're in the water, though. So
Are they like?
Go
Are
ahead.
they born in the mermaid purse? Do they have the thing on the end of the tail? Because sometimes you can see the baby in the purse on the tail. So honestly, I think what happened is some marine biologist got drunk, creative, or something, and it was like, Charlotte's alone. I have this stingray. I'm just gonna bring it in for a little bit, and then this is what happens. And now you have immaculate conception, and he doesn't want to lose his job, so he's not talking. You know.
Now, I could believe more so that he would just artificially inseminate with himself. I can't imagine he had sex with it, because where do you have sex? Where is the stingray's vagina? No one knows. But Bobby, your thought, they are
I
in the
think
water,
he
so a
knows.
stillborn baby can float around, and you would think it's alive because it's in water. You know what I mean? So it's not as bad as just on land.
Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
This is
I
getting
was
really
all worried
dark.
about the kids. Yeah.
I hope all the stingrays are okay.
It wasn't dark till you came in and said, birth is terrible, I hate my children, they're covered in goo. We were having a fun conversation.
No, I'm saying it's just a little uncivilized to like what other surgery are you just like, hey, I'm just gonna hang out here awake, open, throw a baby at me, you know, try to feel something. Like, no, sew me up. This is crazy. You
I'm
know,
kinda
like get
with you.
like for the stingray, like get these kids out of here. I'm trying to have a stingray party, you know. I didn't invite a bunch of humans to this.
Well, the stingray also didn't invite itself into an aquarium. It got stolen from its land. So it's kind of over for their rights. They're on display
First of all,
regardless.
this stingray cannot tell its own story. You know, we'll find out.
No.
We will never know. It also
Its
couldn't
name's not
say, "Hey,
Charlotte."
I'm about to birth some stingrays. Could you get the camera crew in here? Let's go." Just-
Yeah, its name's
I'm
not
kidding.
Charlotte. No one's naming anything Charlotte in the ocean. That's not an ocean name. So it's got a name of a city that's close to where they are. Like, that was just lazy. They want to name it Henderson. So they're like, oh, what's the closest city? Charlotte. We're not going to call it Raleigh. Or Gravedigger,
what would
as
you
we learned in
name
our last
your
episode.
stingray if you had a stingray?
Ray.
They had a contest here to name a beluga whale. You had to,
Beluga
like,
whale?
name it. Yeah.
What did you name it?
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't in the contest, but I don't know. I forget what it got named though. I should. I didn't know. I never followed up on that. I should. There's a Juno. I know.
Oh, yeah, Juno turned into Elliot.
Did he?
You don't follow? Okay,
I
Ellen
followed
Payton. Okay, anyway, thank you. The actress who played Juno in the movie is now says she's a man and not a woman. Anyway, Bobby.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting.
What would you name a beluga whale, Pat? I got a couple ideas.
Go ahead. I know I would name the stingray Ray just to be an asshole. I call him Ray Sting. That's what I would call him, the
I
stingray.
like that.
Solid.
Bob. I would call him Bob Luger Whale.
Oh, I was
That would be
thinking
his
like
name.
caged Willie. Just be really on the nose. Instead of Free Willie, be like, we got a caged Willie here.
Indentured Willie. I like that.
yeah. Just really on the nose.
N-word Willie. It's just like
one other
Jim from
talks about-
Huckleberry Finn.
One thing I did think about, because I did hear you guys were talking about stingrays. Do you remember the stingray who stung what's his name? Steve?
Yeah, Steve Irwin. Yes, we covered him
Steve
before.
Irwin?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh, no,
Well, I
you're
think
allowed to
in
bring it
that-
up, too.
Oh, sorry. Well, I do think that I mean, God rest his soul, he was an amazing human and all the things he did, but he was kind of the jerk in that situation. Let's be honest.
Can I ask you why he was an amazing human?
I don't know. Didn't he do a lot of education and
Okay.
I don't know.
What do you know about crocodiles now that Steve Irwin walked the land? What do you know? What education do you have?
Listen, I know not to touch a goddamn stingray. That's what I know.
Yeah, you knew that before, though.
Okay, moving on.
No,
He
I'm
did the
kinda-
same thing Michael Jackson did with his baby over the balcony. It was the same thing. He just held it and he died. That's the same fucking thing. He wore short
his
shorts and he
picture's
made his
still
whole
alive.
family get involved in his stupid scheme where they ran around touching creatures that no one gives a fuck about. You don't need to hunt crocodiles. They're in a pond. They're easy to find. You're not hunting shit. They're right there.
They'll find you if you're,
Yeah.
you know, easy enough.
It is kind of like a heroin addict ODing, and we all go, we kind of saw this coming. Like the fact that a stingray got him, you're like, it was only a matter of time. You know, you avoid death with an
like
animal.
Siegfried
19.
and Roy kind of.
Yeah, exactly. When were
Yes.
those tigers gonna attack?
He who lives by the tiger.
Dies by the tiger. And dies gay as hell, too. Perfect. Bobby, do you have a story?
Fantastic outfits, though. Anyway.
Yes, they were lovely. Those guys, I'm just guessing they were gay. I'm not saying they were. I wouldn't know for sure, you know, with those
Pat,
outfits
can
or
you
the
and I
fact that
use
they.
like read and
did-
play for Halloween?
Yes.
That would
Bobby,
be
you got
great.
something?
Yeah, speaking of outfits, the hottest college basketball jersey right now for the first time is a female basketball player as Iowa's Caitlin Clark becomes the NCAA's all-time leading scorer as she closed out her final season with the Hawkeyes against Ohio State. So basically, she hit a shot that put her ahead of Pistol Pete Maravich. It's a record that has stood for a long time. The closest somebody got was a Division I AA player a couple years ago who came like 2 points short because his team didn't make the tournament. Like if he had made the tournament, he absolutely would have broke the record. Caitlin Clark did it, as you pointed out earlier, Pat. She did it in, 3 years?
Well, I didn't
She
point that
could
out
have
on
had-
here yet, but yes.
No,
you and I
I'm
in
sorry. I forgot that was
conversation
behind the
about
scenes.
so-
But yeah, she did it in less time than anybody. And it really does just beg the question of how many points would Pistol Pete have scored if he was also playing against women? Pat, who's the POS in this story? Is it me for my sexist comments?
Yes.
Is it Caitlin Clark for making us care about women's college basketball? Is it Pistol Pete, score a few more points? Or is it the media? Because what they're going to do is hype this girl so literally they're making this the peak of her life, her senior year of college, because it's all downhill from here. We've seen it with Sabrina. We've seen it with Brittany Griner. All these girls go to the NBA and we never hear from them again. The closest was Sabrina going against Steph Curry in the three-point contest at the men's All-Star game. So who's the piece of shit in this story? Is it society? Is it me? Is it Terry Nee?
Now, before we get into all that, Bobby, I want to bring up a couple of points there. I was at my father's house yesterday, and we were with my sisters, and we were watching the pregame of all this, waiting for the UConn pregame as well to happen. It was a half hour later than that. And speaking of UConn, for one reason, myself living in Connecticut, Jennifer also living in Connecticut, women's basketball has been very big here for a long time. My cousin actually played for the teams that had Diana Taurasi and stuff like that. So in Connecticut, it's not as crazy of a deal
Time
for
out.
us to believe.
We cannot move on. Your cousin knows Diana Taurasi?
Yes.
Okay, you
They
know
were on
she's
the
like
same
my
team.
number one of all time, right? You got to introduce
Why?
me to Diana Taurasi. She's the best basketball player. She just gets DUIs and does not give a shit. She's the coolest woman I've ever heard of. You got to introduce
I don't
me
know
to
if I
Diana
got
Taurasi.
introductions for you, but yeah, we can figure something out. Maybe an email
Okay,
or
cool,
something.
cool,
But
cool.
yeah, okay.
Just like an
Yeah,
autograph.
my
maybe?
cousin Maria Conlon played on those teams that won the
That's
championship.
sick, dude. I love
But,
Diana Taurasi.
So anyway, back to the part where Bobby's like just bashed women, but then said my favorite of all time is okay. Anyway,
Diana Taurasi. Yeah, yeah.
it's like it's a little wild, but we were discussing that stuff, and my dad was saying I had an uncle. He passed away recently. He lived in Iowa most of his life, and my dad, when like in the '60s, went to go visit his brother, my uncle, who's much older than him, in Iowa. And they were going to go do something, so they went to go watch a high school basketball game, women's basketball game, in 1964 in Iowa that was sold out. So what are you doing with the microphone? Just tapping them?
No, I wasn't moving around. My bad. I was trying to fix
Oh, I thought you were tipping one out. I don't know what that was. But anyway, so even in Iowa, forever, women's basketball, because they don't have a lot of professional sports anyway, has been respected and all that stuff. That being said, LeBron James also broke a record. He's the first person ever to score 40,000 points in the NBA. LeBron James has done that by playing since he was like 18 or 19, coming out of high school and getting more time, but still an incredible record no matter what. Caitlin Clark did this with a COVID year, which when she wanted to, she could claim that COVID year back. And she could play another year, but she said the pressure has been too much, which is understandable. The media, she wasn't getting media when she started playing women's college basketball, and now the media is insane all the time, not just for her, but her teammates, the school, everyone. And she kind of liked to just get away from that and move on. And there's no better way to get away from that than to go to the WNBA, because there'll be no media, there'll be no one caring. She'll be playing in front of 12 people. Believe me, I know. I've gone to Connecticut Sun games. You don't need to buy tickets in advance. I don't mind it. I like basketball with fundamentals and passing, so I enjoy a women's basketball game. But she's not, no matter where she goes, even when the hype is great for her, it's just going to fall off because that's how the WNBA is taken. So what I'm saying is the piece of shit are people that don't embrace women's basketball to be the same. So many men now complain, older white men complain that the new NBA with the spread out team and spacing and stuff like that and 3-point shooting is not fun. It's not fundamental. It's not passing. When they've got a league that does all that, women's basketball, where they pass the ball, where they run plays, where they play defense, you might tell yourself it's not as good, but if you're looking for that thing, if I want a BLT, I don't go eat a cheeseburger because I'm like, well, it's just more convenient and everyone else like that a little more. I go have the thing I want. So if you want that kind of thing, you go watch that. So it's everyone who shits on women's basketball that's not heralding this thing that she beat Pistol Pete, no offense, a child fucking trafficked person. As a child, his father, like, basically, he was the first one to get beaten by his dad into, you better spin balls on your finger on Johnny Carson and be touted around like a freak and dribble around your whole life to amount to nothing. No one cares about Pistol Pete but you, Bobby. Not even Mr. Pistol or Mrs. Pistol. They don't give a fuck. I'm happy Caitlin has it more. Women's basketball should be heralded more. And fuck you, Bobby, for starting this with two women's bashings. Charlotte the Stingray and Caitlin Clark. Two amazing women. It's Women's Month, Bobby. How dare you?
I mean, J.J. Lieberman also thinks Pistol Pete was the best player of all time. So it's not just me on this island.
Yeah,
If you enjoy a crossover, thank Pistol Pete. But I do think, much like Pistol Pete, Caitlin's going to kind of redefine how the game's played. She played boys basketball her whole life. Like, it was always a thing. Caitlin Clark shouldn't be allowed to play because she's a girl. Why is she getting to play in the boys AAU league and stuff? And it may be the first crossover we see. Like, genuinely, the way she plays the
They thought Cheryl Swoops was going to be that too, but it didn't pan out. But okay.
But you know who really, it should have been fucking Reggie Miller's sister.
Yeah.
She could have played power forward in the NBA without a
If
doubt.
she played at this time, not then, she would have all those records. But it's
absolutely,
anyway,
but
she didn't.
She played too early. But the point being, like, I think this might be where we start to see, like, especially in the youth, where girls develop before boys, like, more co-ed sports. I think that might be a good thing. But for me,
Wait, I'm confused. Why is there a POS in this story? I think it's not a good thing. No. She seems pretty like incredible.
No, we find the piece of shit in it. So
I see.
So for you, if I was you right now, I would probably go what I did and go, oh, it's Bobby for bringing this up and saying she saw. It doesn't have to be the suggestions. That's how we get.
Okay.
We try to make stories fun, Jennifer. That's the whole thing here. We're having fun. No one is actually.
Oh, totally.
It's a
no.
I'm saying so.
I'm excited for it. I didn't.
No, but
this
it should
goes
be
to show you how much I follow basketball. I had no idea.
Yes. So
this
I guess
happening.
The question Bobby's
So
going to ask is, who do you think the piece of shit is? I guess you think no one. But who? If you could make one up, who's the piece of shit? Is it me for mansplaining what the show is to you? Is it Bobby for bringing up the subject? Who is it?
I think it's mainly men just being jealous because they're not as good at basketball. You know, I mean, let's get down to it.
That's definitely not true. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but if you took the best man player ever and the best woman player, just
No.
because of
I'm not
physical
saying
size and dominance-
players. I'm saying the populace. That's why people are angry, because they're like, oh, my son's not as good as she is. He'll never
yes.
play. You know, and
You
they're
are
just
right,
they're
yeah.
bitter about it. And you're like, maybe you should have pushed him harder. You know, I don't know. Just kidding. But no, I
Well,
don't
no
know
one's
who the
upset at
PR.
her. It's being heralded. It's just that it feels bad that she's gonna be Bobby made a joke about breaking a man's record. It's amazing she didn't just break women's records. She broke every college basketball player ever. She scored the most points of men or women, whatever, which is amazing.
That's
but
awesome.
it will get forgotten in a year because that's how we feel about women's basketball when it comes to talking about sports. Someone else will just talk about
Yeah.
other things. You know, it won't be that way. If someone in WNBA
Well, we
ever
can-
breaks Michael Jordan's scoring record or LeBron's scoring record, they're never going to look at it the same way. You know,
Could be said for most women accolades. You know, I mean, not just basketball. Let's be honest.
yeah. What are other accolades that you think women don't get that they are better than men at?
I don't know. Didn't Jay-Z just get in trouble for getting on stage and saying how Beyonce didn't get, her due recognition? No,
From
didn't
what?
is that
No.
that
He
a
did.
theme?
No, he did. But
Yeah.
I'm like, what? How is she? How can she be more recognized? She's called a queen, and
that was
she's never
my-
been royalty. Like the world worships her more than actual people that should be worshipped. Beyonce gets recognized in more countries than Jesus in the Pope. Like when he said that, it's kind of like, who doesn't know who the fuck Beyonce is? Like everyone knows.
I
who
think
Beyonce.
what may be going on, maybe something's going on behind the scenes. He's trying to make up for, the next Lemonade or something. I don't know. He's like, I'll just say she needs all the awards. Who knows?
I think every time Taylor Swift does well, a black performer has to say nope. And that's what it is.
Oh,
So when Taylor Swift is selling out everything, and Beyonce had her movie too, and people loved it, but it wasn't heralded the same way that Taylor's was. So I think that Jay-Z's like, nah, Beyonce's the best, right, dear? You're better than Taylor. It's like, they're both great at what they do, but Taylor's more popular. It's just what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that maybe is the message. Like, there's so many people that go completely unrecognized their whole lives, And what about those folks, male or
Those
female?
are called losers, Jennifer. I
Or
don't know if you know that.
non-binary.
Those are losers.
There are three of them doing a morning show right now.
Yes.
Yes, that's us. That's us, Pat.
Yes. Why aren't we recognized? Bobby, who do you think the piece of shit is?
Fran McCaffrey, who is the Iowa's men's basketball coach, whose team is 10-9 right now in the Big Ten. Come on, dude. Give it a shot. It'd be the biggest thing ever. Your name's going to go down in history. Give her a few weeks to practice with the bigger ball. Bring her on over. Like, she's got one more year.
They're not gonna make the tournament. They're 10-9.
Yeah, all they got to do is win the Big Ten tournament. Imagine the storyline.
They're not winning the
Clark
Big Ten
takes
tournament.
2 weeks. She takes 2 weeks to practice with a men's ball. Comes over to the men's team, wins the Big Ten tournament, and takes Iowa on a run. She would truly go down as the greatest legend of all time. You're telling me the
Terry's
women's
right?
team?
Terry said that women's field hockey would be more popular if they wore the volleyball shorts. I always like the field hockey skirt. I always like the field hockey skirt better than a tight short. Anyway, because it was like fun to watch. As high school, oh my god! There was already a cute girl on my high school team anyway, but then she's running around in a cool little skirt. That was cute. I don't want to see her in a wedgie. I don't want. That's too much.
Too much.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, Pat. But the other option is you could just make them fight like real hockey. And then I think it would get very popular, too. Like, if you could just have a beef and just drop the gloves at center field and scrap for a few minutes.
I don't know what your high school team did, but we had a couple of big girls and they would fight it. They had wooden sticks. Their shins would be messed up. That was you had angry teen girls who really didn't even like each other on the same team because they're trying to date the same guy, and they get a chance to smack each other's. There was drama on those field hockey teams.
Oh, maybe in your team. We didn't lose a game of field hockey my 4 years of high school.
We were really good too, but they also
some,
hated the shit out of each other.
We had some gold medalist coach who coached for 40 years and I think lost 3 games in her entire coaching career.
That's crazy. I tried to play field hockey because my mom really wanted me to play, and then to your point, Pat Oates, there were lots of girls with, you know, a lot of hormones, a lot of craziness going on, and they had sticks, they had weapons.
Yes,
You know, it was worse than basketball. Like, I didn't like basketball either. It was too much touching, too much pushing. You know, I was like, I couldn't do it. I was like, no, this is terrifying. They have weapons.
We've learned so far you don't like anything with touching. Birth of children.
Yeah.
Sports.
No, just leave me alone, please.
Yes, just leave me in the corner. Get the fuck away from me. Why are you watching me? No, without a doubt. That's the one. That's deadly. That stick that's not a stick. That's a cane. That's a thick ass cane that you're giving people to swat each other. Same thing with lacrosse. Lacrosse is not as bad, like, because it's lighter overall, but you could fuck someone up with that. You're teaching someone a sport, but then going, here, use this weapon, okay. Like, that's insane. Basketball, even football, yes, you're wearing padding, but you're hitting each other. You're not also given, like, a mace or a mallet to fuck people up with. Giving women wooden sticks and saying, no one cares anyway, and then Bobby going, why don't you fight? Bobby, they're on skates. That's kind of gay anyway. Running on a field is women playing field hockey is way more manly than men playing ice hockey.
It's true.
They're not allowed to use the backhand. It's an entirely one-sided game.
Like a
there's
pimp
no
hand? What do you mean? Like
no,
backhand?
you're not allowed to use the backside of the stick. You have to use that front flat mallet. If it's a foul, you can't be left-handed. Field hockey is not the sport. Lots of men play it. I just not a fan. I would rather watch a women's ice hockey game than a women's field hockey game.
Did you just know rules of field hockey? You're the piece of shit.
I know about women's sport. To be clear, am I a misogynist? Absolutely.
Yes.
But I'm a well-researched one. I know the rules, okay?
You know what? I felt this way. I felt this way about those Stanley Cup things. I'm like, that is a weapon. Those things should be banned in schools. Like, someone's going to use that to, like, knock somebody out if they haven't already.
Absolutely.
And that proves how shitty hockey is, Bobby, because more kids now know about the Stanley Cup coffee thermos than they do the actual trophy for the NHL called the Stanley Cup. They just switched the name. If you said that everyone in hockey this year is going to win a Stanley Cup, there are kids in this world that were like, oh, they're all going to get their own thermos? That's cool. And they don't mean that at all. They mean a big, gross cup that Canadian men all drink out of at the same time.
Absolutely. What's even worse is we had the AHL, the Hershey Bears, who would win all the time. So it's not even the top of the line trophy. They would still celebrate the same way with the Calder Cup, which is like the minor league trophy.
I mean, you could still take someone out with those trophies too, if you wanted to bring your Stanley Cup to school. You know.
I mean, I believe you could take someone out with anything if you try. Like, you know what I mean? With a car, if you want. NASCAR can take.
No, but have you
out
ever
too,
dropped one of those giant metal things on your foot? It's life-changing.
Yeah,
It'll ruin your day.
Dropping them.
I was talking.
I don't know. It happens. Think about the Dick's workers who have to deal with this.
Yeah, me.
Can we go back to the Nalgene bottles? Good Lord.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Those are so much more fun. Mm-hmm. But those Stanley bottles could be a weapon, absolutely. And I think what we're missing here, though, about hockey versus field hockey is field hockey didn't end the Cold War. Whereas one slap shot from Mike Eruzione ended the Cold War.
Is the Cold War over? I'm sorry, I missed it. Just kidding.
It's a lot warmer.
Yeah, we kind of don't like them now too. She is kind of
no.
It's like
this is a
kind of going on.
Global warming took over, so now it's a warm war.
It's getting hotter. It's warmed up.
Cold War too. Hello, Lucy.
I actually know.
Rose.
Sadly, I know someone whose dad passed away in Russia in the war recently.
I bet you a
they're
lot of dads
offering
passed
them
away in Russia in the war.
Yeah, they're offering them all kinds of incentives to join the army, and you know, he was in his 50s and took it up, and then now he's no longer. I think they don't know where he is. He went missing, but there were like big battalions that went completely missing, and yeah. Anyway, so I digress. Sorry to sadden up this happy morning show.
No, the new piece of shit in this story is the Russian dad who's like, "Oh, my kids are fine and all. I'm gonna go to Russia to die in the war rather than be around my family." How shitty is his family? Like, yeah, Russia sounds great. I'll go there.
No, he was already in Russia. He was Russian. It's not like he went there to fight.
That's even worse. Just to be in Russia, that's the worst place to be.
I mean, I get
yeah.
why he joined. It makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
You know?
Hang
Well,
on, I'm
I think
kinda
he just had
curious.
nothing else going on. He just is,
Dude, get a hobby. You don't go to war when you have nothing else
brainwashed.
going on.
Well, hang on. As someone
I
with a
don't
lot more
know.
free time on my hands, what were these incentives?
That's a good question. We should look him up. I don't know.
Was it
I
a
think it had to
Mustang?
do with money.
All I really want is a Mustang. I'll go.
Not
fight
in
right now.
Russia. You want to drive a Mustang in the snow?
I'm hoping they
Thanks.
let me back after I single-handedly win the war for Russia.
I would like a Cybertruck. Thank you.
Bobby, the only Mustang you're getting in Russia is the actual horse. They would just give
I
you
mean,
that.
all right, me and
Would you be
Poots-
better off on, truthfully?
Yeah, me and Vladdy just rolling around together shirtless after we win. How are we gonna win? A psyop campaign. Do you know Zelensky had this island where he would take people? That's how we're gonna win the war. Anyway, now I've died. Pat, take over.
I kind of wanted to know where you were going. But side note, Bobby, a couple weeks ago, you and I made a joke on this podcast together, and I've seen as well, that a lot of people do comment sometimes when you go off into a story that you're lying. And this is going to lead to my next piece of shit story. And so I was like, yeah, it'd be funny sometime if you told me that you're going to make up a story. We present it to people. We do the whole thing. And then later on, as a joke, we let people know that it wasn't real. And because I'm a friend of yours and I trust you sometimes blindly, Jennifer, on Friday, Bobby shared a story, and he talked about how R. Kelly was going to be suing Jeffrey Epstein's estate because he didn't get invited to the island. Now, right away, I'm like, okay, that sounds fake. But Bobby had so much evidence and somebody...
So R. Kelly.
Who is suing who? R. Kelly
R.
is
Kelly
suing
was suing Jeffrey Epstein's estate because he was not invited to the island, and he
On
would
the
love to
grounds
be
of
there because
racial
all the things he does.
discrimination. Yeah.
And about racial
Fair.
discrimination, all these things. And it went on for about 5 minutes. Myself and the other guest, it was Brandon, who was very high at the time, both were in on it. We made stories. The thumbnail to our podcast was that. But at one point later in the day, I was like, oh, I want to read this actual story. Do you know when you Google that, nothing exists? Because Bobby just lied, but didn't even tell me. So we presented this story. It's the thumbnail. People are like, dude, this is not real. You were just talking. I don't even know this, Bob, but at one point we have to say it's fake, or we're just, I know it's two people no one cares about, but it's a touch of slander. That we just can't say the two of them are collaborating.
And R. Kelly's still alive, so you have to worry about that.
Yes. And
Yeah,
if he's suing
that's funny.
anyone,
Well,
it's gonna
that's
be
what's
me
wrong
and
with
Bobby.
America, right? You can just say whatever you want, and people believe that shit. Like,
Oh, it's wrong with
R. Kelly.
friendship, Jennifer. That's what it is. I believed Bobby because
That's
I'm
what's wrong
his
with
friend, and I believed him.
Yeah.
And now I'll never trust again.
my
Robert,
question is, did Bobby believe Bobby? Like, did you believe this actually
Yes.
happened, or did you just make that shit up?
all I know is I'm not. Maybe I had some inside information. We're both named Robert, right? You know.
Exactly.
So maybe the story hasn't broke yet. You know, Pat. Okay, maybe we broke.
It's not
news here
not
on
true.
POS. Yeah.
You know.
And I would love the fact if
Be
R.
true.
Kelly tried to sue us for slander right now, it would be 90% of him being like, "Wait, how do I sue them for this?" And you're like, "No, it was a joke." But okay, but how do I sue?
He would
Yeah.
know.
If anything, you helped him because people felt sympathetic. Like, oh, poor R. Kelly, you didn't get invited to the island party. It was a loving tale because that's where he would thrive, in a place where you could pee on children freely.
You know that is some rich dude's story though. Like, you know,
Yes.
someone was, not to say butthurt, but like butthurt about not getting the invite. You know, like, oh, I thought we were friends. I invited him to my club. Ugh.
They were butthurt that they couldn't butthurt a child. It's like, damn it.
Gross.
Yes, that whole
Gross.
island was quite gross. But no, it'd be worse. It's like somebody who just worked there. Like, you're like, no, I love kids, but job's a job. You know what I mean? Like, you know the benefits I get on Fuck Island? It's crazy. Way better than joining the Russian army.
In
Way
my
better
defense,
benefits.
one of the lines of
You
the
know
news
what's-
article was they said, "Robert, how would you get there?" And he responded with, "I believe I could fly."
No, he didn't.
That was one of the lines in the news article that you thought was real.
No.
So in my defense,
Bobby, you're known to make jokes. So that part, I was like, Bobby made a joke within the story. That's all I did. With a comical thing. Yeah. Did I think it was silly and weird? But you broke it like it was a thing. You even told me I got this story that's nuts. And I was like, all right, go ahead with it.
Oh
All right,
my
my bad.
goodness.
I'll say I guess I am the POS in this story, and going forward, nothing but factually true stories with disclosure.
No. I like what you did. If anything, Bobby, it's not the piece of shit because you and I discussed about doing it, and then I'm actually happy that you actually followed through and listened to something we talked about. So I felt great about that, which was awesome. And then it's not me because I'm proving I'm such a good friend. I just blindly trust you. So that's nice to have in life. A lot of people don't have that. The piece of shit in this story is R. Kelly because R. Kelly is such a piece of shit that I just believe that he would have done this. I just believed he'd be like, yeah, of course I'm mad I didn't get invited. He's the same man who in a third world country is saying, do you have your passports? Did you get your shots? Come with me to America. He was trying to get people that were in third world countries to come sleep with him in his home anyway, so I believed he would do anything like this. I believe he could fly. I believe he could touch the sky. I believe he could do anything like that.
You
so
say that like it's different than any other person traveling to another country.
But have you seen that concert?
No.
Go
Wait,
look
at
up.
a concert?
Go look up. Do you have your passports? Do you have your shots in your spare time? R. Kelly, in the middle of a concert, stops and starts talking to the people of the third world country, and he goes, "I want this song for all of you. I'm lonely now. I'm single." And he sings, "Do you have your passports? Did you get your shots? Come with me to America." And he brought some back with him.
He's working through the logistics. I mean, he's multitasking. You know, I get it. He's got a lot going on or something.
He has not a lot going on. After his two big albums were out, he just focused on pissing on people, and that was it. There was really nothing else going on.
What's up with that?
That's his favorite nation. Urination.
I don't understand that.
So, Jennifer, who's the piece of shit? Is it Bobby for lying to me? Is it me for believing in him? Who is it?
It's always Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, let's be honest. It's always, let's think about that. You know, if you're ever feeling like a real piece of shit, you can be like, you know what, today, not so bad. There's always Jeffrey Epstein, you know, who did not kill himself.
No.
But no, I don't know much about, I haven't watched the R. Kelly documentary. I don't know a whole lot.
No
only what I've seen in the news.
Yeah.
But I have watched the Jeffrey Epstein one, and that one's terrifying.
That one's pretty rough.
It's awful.
But the best part of it was was when they started talking about his crooked penis and how uncomfortable he got. He was like, how did they know I had a crooked penis? I just had sex with all of Florida. How did they know that? He gets really weird about it. And I think that's the best part. I think if you're going to watch that, just watch that part.
I think it's great that got out there because women started talking about it. And somebody's like, "You see his crooked penis?" She's like, "Holy shit, you saw it too? It's so crooked. It's like a question mark. It's nuts."
It's like completely sideways, they said. It's like, yeah.
Bill Clinton had that too, supposedly.
I wasn't invited to the island, and honestly, I'm mad about it. You know,
you and R. Kelly.
I was in South Florida around that time. You know, I had no money. I'm just kidding.
Now, Jeffrey Epstein is a terror. Yeah, but you were too old. Anyway, Jeffrey Epstein was
not then. Not when he was doing it.
How old were you?
I was probably in my oh, you're right. I was over 18. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Gross. Ew.
Disgusting.
They would throw you off that island.
Yeah, they would be like, you can clean up after. Just kidding.
Good. I'm happy. First of all, hello, Aaron. And yes, Aaron, you're right. I also thought it was the perfect POS story, and it was lies. Bobby just lied to us. It was so good. I'm like, this story's only going to be on our show. I'm like, I was shocked no one else was breaking this news. But I'm like, it's so fucked up that you couldn't do it, and no one wanted to bring it up. But I think as much as Jeffrey Epstein is awful, and I'm not going to say he's not. He's one of the worst people of all times. If anything, he might be tied with Hitler now as worst person of all times when you think about terrible people. That being said, there are
That's a little far.
No, if you really think about it, yes, they're both awful. But if you're modern day, what he did, stealing and trafficking that many people, blackmailing other people, it's just as diabolical. They're both awful. I'm not saying one. I don't want to ever say one's worse than the other, but they both had thoughts and plans of just destroying people for their own wealth, and that's no other reason. They're awful. And it's amazing that Jeffrey Epstein, a Jewish person, can overcome Hitler as the worst ever, that's like the full circle moment. Like, that's an incredible thing.
I'm
But-
gonna have to say Hitler's definitely worse. But I'm gonna
Well,
have to
that's
just
your
say that.
opinion as a woman who wasn't invited to the island. Okay, so you're
Well,
a
a lot of
mad,
those women are
so-
still living, so a lot. That's one.
Whoa,
key
you've never met a
component
Holocaust
of-
survivor? I've seen them. They're
I
around.
have, but there's plenty who we haven't met. And let's be honest.
Do the
so.
numbers. By the number, percentage-wise, I think there's
Oh,
less
dear.
survivors on the island than there is the 6 million, if you go that way. But what I was trying to say is, before it's so rudely interrupted with your Hitler fun, how much you love Hitler and you think he's so great, said here on the podcast, big Hitler fan. His
Pat.
numbers are the best. Huge Hitler
We're
fan.
not. We're not friends anymore, Pat. Coming for you
What I was
Thursday.
saying was, when I was... sometimes when I'm feeling like I'm not motivated and not getting work done, I think, what would Jeffrey Epstein do? Because he was able to sit there and put together an island, get all the contacts, get the people, make fun events happen, invites, jets, that guy, yes, he was awful, but he was motivated. There's a same thing with Hitler. Hitler was awful, but he was a leader. Like, they had great qualities. They just did them for the wrong reason.
But
This
what-
actually came up at the Tom Segura show. I think he did copious amounts of cocaine is what really is at the bottom of that.
Hitler?
Hitler and Epstein, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they kicked
Well,
it off
hey.
with an 8-ball for sure.
Whoa, I cannot sit here and allow this cocaine slander on this show. I don't think cocaine makes you a bad person at all. I think
No,
lots
it
of
says makes
fun
you
people
motivated and
do cocaine. I will say,
I'm just saying you get a lot done.
in Hitler's
Maybe.
credentials, they did name the thing after him that he did. Like, they changed the name. They don't call molestation Epsteining now, but when you try to eradicate a group of people, they call it a Holocaust. So I think Hitler's got some points ahead yet until some
But
more
Bobby,
comes out about
when
Jeffy.
you talk about trafficking, even as a joke, you go, "Where you going? Epstein's Island." Epstein's Island has become the concentration camp, and they don't call it Hitler's Camp of Fun. They call it a concentration camp. So Epstein also has his own thing named after him, an island, fuck island.
And this is why people tune into the POS show. Most people are debating
I've been
Caitlin
past
Clark
it. It's
versus Pete
beautiful.
Maravich, but we're
You
doing
pass it if you've been to St. John. You've been past that island.
Yeah, have you ever been by Auschwitz? Not beautiful. It's like, you know what I mean? No one's
Which
going
is
Auschwitz.
why another reason why he's better.
Wait, because he worked with worse shit. You know what? I guess you're right. You know what? You swayed me. You're right.
a real
He
Thank
worked with
you.
worse
Bad guy.
locations.
Epstein was born into
Thank
it. Hitler
you.
had to work for it.
No,
It's true. He had that Victoria's Secret rich guy who just gave him all the money and made him look rich, right? He didn't own the penthouse in Manhattan. That was the Victoria's Secret dude.
Yeah. Mossad.
He's way worse for just funding that. He's just like,
Yeah, what a douche. What an asshole.
Come on.
Bobby, you got another one? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, so I guess our last story was pretty current, and this one's going to take us back into history a little bit. Are either of you guys familiar with the Mona Lisa?
The painting? Yes.
The painting,
I've
yeah.
seen it. Yes, yes.
And have you been curious, why is she smiling?
No, I think the debate is if she's smiling, right?
Well, we have a lost diary of Leonardo da Vinci unveils shocking secrets behind the Mona Lisa smile. So I guess she is smiling. In a discovery that has sent shockwaves through the art world, a lost diary belonging to the legendary Renaissance polymath Leonardo da Vinci has been unearthed, revealing startling revelations about one of his most famous works, the Mona Lisa. The diary, believed to have been lost for centuries, was discovered tucked away in the archives of a European museum during a routine cataloging process. Historians and art experts were astonished to find the diary contained intimate details about Da Vinci's life, thoughts, artistic process, including a groundbreaking revelation about the enigmatic smile of Mona Lisa. Enigmatic.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm not good with big words sometimes when I'm on too much coke. According to the entries in the
I don't
diary
know.
dated yeah, exactly. According to the entries in the diary dated to the early 16th century, Da Vinci confided that the secret behind the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile lay in his own personal experiences. In a startling revelation, Da Vinci revealed that he had often dressed in women's clothing and assumed a female persona, using the guise to deceive and seduce unsuspecting men. Do we need to keep going, or should I just sum it up
I
here?
think
Who's
you're
the piece
fine.
of shit in this
No,
story?
keep
Keep going.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
In one particular candid passage, Da Vinci described how he would don elaborate dresses, wigs, and makeup to transform himself into a convincing woman. He confessed to using his feminine guise to approach men in taverns, public spaces, and engaging them in conversation, and then revealing his true identity as a man, much to their shock and bewilderment. Quote, "It is the guise of a woman that I find my greatest freedom," Da Vinci wrote. "In the subtle art of deception, I discover new depths of human experience. The Mona Lisa's smile is but a reflection of my own, born from the secrets I carry within." The revelation that Da Vinci may have drawn inspiration from his own experiences in drag to create the enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa has sparked intense debate among art historians and scholars. Some argue that it adds a layer of complexity to our understanding of Da Vinci's genius, highlighting his willingness to explore taboo subjects and challenge societal norms. Others, however, caution against reading too much into Da Vinci's personal life and suggest diary entries may be open to interpretation. Nevertheless, the discovery of the diary has reignited fascination with Da Vinci's life and work, prompting renewed interest in unraveling the mysteries behind his masterpieces. As historians pore over the newly uncovered diary, eager to unlock its secrets, one thing remains certain. The Mona Lisa continues to captivate and intrigue audiences centuries after its creation.
That's so interesting.
You
Is
made him
okay,
keep
Bobby? Is this
going.
true? Are you just wait? You regret
there
that,
were
Pat.
a lot of big words. As compared to the R. Kelly article, I didn't have to ask Pat how to pronounce any of those. The evidence of my honesty.
Yes, but if you were
I just
lying, you would
Googled-
throw something in like that and go, "Oh, is this a fake word?" And just pretend now to throw us off.
I mean, that seems like a lot
I
of work.
Googled
It might make me a
images.
psychopath.
Sounds like you know how to use Chat GPT. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's an AI generated thing. Without doubt.
So I just looked at pictures of Leonardo da Vinci, and there is a striking resemblance, I'm not going to lie, between him and the Mona Lisa. It's
There are no
they
pictures of
look-
either one of them. They're drawings.
sure, but
So if
they're
you
probably
wanted
ones
to
that
draw
he
them-
did, both of them. Yeah.
Right, and he drew. It's kind of like if the guys who draw The Simpsons draw someone else, they're always yellow and they always look like Bart. You know what I mean? If you're an artist, you always got to do the same drawing, so he's gonna draw everything like him. That's what he
I
draws.
don't think that's true.
Yeah, it's my Simpsons theory, and I'm sticking to it. It's like,
And this is the same era where like women weren't allowed to be in plays and stuff. It had to be men in drag and things like that. So drag was common at the time. Like it definitely is a possibility.
Yeah. It's always been around.
Bobby, you're gonna ask us who the piece of shit is? Or
Oh,
can
yeah,
we get
Pat,
past
who's
this?
who's the
Jesus
POS in
Christ.
this
No, go to
story?
Jennifer
I'm sorry.
first, because I gotta fucking
Jennifer,
wake up.
who's the
Go ahead.
POS? I'm sorry. Who's the piece of shit? Is it Da
Oh.
Vinci for playing?
I think it's that
surprise?
museum. Like, who the fuck sleeps on a goddamn journal for centuries? And you're just like, oh, whoopsie, we just found this thing. Like, who's the jabroni that forgot it was there? That's who the POS is. Seriously.
I'm guessing more.
Some guy died talking and studying Mona Lisa's smile, and now you're going to come out with this? Guy wasted his whole life trying to figure that shit out.
Poor guy. I never
He's
thought about
Elvis.
the guy. It's like,
It's awful.
It was just
Awful.
the original transvestite surprise porn. Was the Mona Lisa's smile, and that's
was
what he spent his whole life.
She was
studying.
in drag and she had some gas. Okay, moving on. Let's.
Ah, man.
Jesus.
I feel
Sorry.
like it was definitely
Beautiful
the church who
painting.
found that journal and was like, "We're gonna suppress that for a while." Pat,
Oh,
who do you
was the
think's
church? Now I definitely don't believe it's true.
true? That would be my guess. Pat, who's the
Not
POS
true.
in
They
your
just
story?
want money.
Bobby,
There's too many
it's you.
Epstein
You're the-
stories for them. They need money.
You're the piece of
Not
shit,
real.
Bobby. Because at the beginning of this podcast, before Jennifer jumped on, before we came on the air, Bobby, I always say, I've got 3 or 4 stories. What do you got? He tells me he's got a couple stories, and I go, what do you have to lead with? You know, the story we do at the beginning to get the fuck out of the way, where so the guests can come in, get used to it, and then we jump into things. And you're like, oh, I've got this other thing we can lead with, whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. We should have led with this boring ass fucking Mona Lisa. Who gives a fuck? Who smiles like Da Vinci? Who gives a shit? No one cares about anything. When you say Leonardo, most people think Ninja Turtle. When you say Mona Lisa, everyone knows the painting, but no one gives a fuck. No one cares about art. No one cares about anything. We can generate everything. Your stories sound like it was AI generated. Right now, anyone can make their own Mona Lisa by just hitting a couple buttons and make one. Art is dumb now. No one cares. It's stupid. Who cares if a woman looks like a guy? I don't know either one of them. They've both been dead. I do feel real bad for the person Jennifer just made up that his whole life, I guess, was some weird lie. And you know that Tom Hanks is going to play that movie role now. It's going to pop out. He's an old man. He's like, when did she smile? And he's crying and shit. And as he dies, they go, here's a book. He's like, and that's it. And I'm going to have to watch that. He's going to win an award for that. And like, fuck you. Who cares?
He's going to have a heart attack when he reads the line.
Yeah.
About what it
Bobby,
was.
I find you enigmatic. Sorry.
Thank you.
How do you spell that?
E-N.
S-T-U-P-I-D. That's how you spell it. Stupid. Right. Bobby, speaking of stupid, speaking of works of art, speaking of things that have gone wrong, have either of you heard about this thing that's been trending, the Willie Wonka Experience that happened in Glasgow? Has anyone heard of this?
Yes.
I've heard about the new movie, but no, I haven't heard about.
This isn't the new movie, which is coming out this week, which I'm looking forward to, with young Timothy Chalamet playing the role, but we'll see what happens there. No, in Glasgow, a group got together and said they were going to start the Willy Wonka Experience. Now, they had this whole thing set up, and they had AI, like Bobby does, generate a advertisement to let people know what it was. Now, the AI went hard. The AI
There's been a lot of slander on the POS show today. I just want to throw that out there. Me and R. Kelly. Robert's been slandered twice.
What? Is someone saying something?
No. Just you keep saying I'm using AI. And then we may have alleged that R. Kelly was suing for racial discrimination when he really wasn't.
Anyway, so the AI generated this, like, basically it looked like a hallucination. It was like very trippy looking ads with like a crazy clown looking Willy Wonka. It looked dope. It was amazing. And then like the write-ups, you could tell they were AI written because they had like quotes in it like a heart-pounding experience like no experience you've never experienced before. And when Bobby started repeating himself in the last story with the same words, I'm like, oh, AI did that in the story I'm going to read. So maybe that's why I think it's a lie as well. But anyway, when a lot of children were excited, and it was going to be $35 to go see this experience, amazing experience. And when people showed up to the experience, it was at a warehouse, and it was basically people just kind of drew with crayon on a wall. And a bunch of people were just half dressed as like Oompa Loompas. And it was so depressing and so terrible that children started to cry. Adults started asking for the refund. One adult called the police. They were so mad. The police came and shut it down a day. And it was like the saddest experience. It went from this amazing looking 3D crazy virtual thing to basically if like Silence of the Lambs had a theme park downstairs. Like, it was just a warehouse with weird art. And this one woman is getting heralded now because she worked there. And there's a picture of her wearing the Oompa Loompa wig with a regular dress, looking sad as shit. And everyone's like, this poor woman. And they've talked to her. And she's like, I was just trying my best. They didn't even tell us what to do. We had to start improvising when the children were crying. We didn't even know the songs. We were just faking shit and yelling. And they got shut down right away. Who's the piece of shit in this story? Is that people were doing the Willy Wonka Experience. They were just capitalizing on the fact that the movie's coming out and all these things like that and knowing children would come. The same way Charlotte the Stingray is being used in the fish store and anything else in the world where you're like, something's hot, let's jump on it. Why don't we do that? Is it parents for bringing their kids to a Willy Wonka Experience in Glasgow? Nothing good happens in Glasgow. The last cool thing in Scotland was the Loch Ness Monster. They're not known for good shit. When you go somewhere, it's disappointing. You go there, you go eat haggis? Haggis is gross. Men in kilts, also gross. We just talked about how field hockey is awesome because women wear skirts. You don't want to see a hairy, red-faced guy who looks like Willie the janitor from The Simpsons, second Simpsons reference in a row, to get in there. You don't want that. You go to Loch Ness Monster, no one's ever seen him, but they go there anyway. So you're used to disappointment. Is it children for crying or giving a fuck about Willy Wonka? Do you know how many better things? Shrek is a way better thing. That's your number one export, Scotland. Shrek. Love him. They have a better experience with
golf.
that.
You're forgetting about golf, Pat.
No, I'm not.
Scotland.
Anyway, I'm not forgetting about golf at all. Golf stinks too. It's a long, as Mark Twain said, it's a long walk spoiled. But anyway, so
Good point.
most of their women look like Shrek. It'd be a way easier sell than an Oompa Loompa. So you'd be fine that way. Is it the guy who called the police? Which is fucking hilarious to me. If I went to McDonald's and the Playland wasn't good for my kids, I might be mad, but I'm not calling the cops. It's crazy that you got the authorities involved. And you're like, this is a crime scene down here. We need you to get in here and shut this the fuck down. Or is it anyone who paid $35 for a Willy Wonka experience and said it wasn't authentic? Willy Wonka wasn't real. There's no authentic Willy Wonka. It's a fake chocolate factory with imprisoned midgets. It's not real. How are you mad? Who's the piece of shit in the story? Jennifer, you go first.
The piece of shit is the one who did not bring chocolate, okay? Because these kids would not be crying if there was just chocolate. Like, you could bring them to, like, an empty gym, and there's, like, here's some chocolate. Kids are not crying. Okay, first of all, there was no chocolate, I guarantee.
But that would be European chocolate, which sucks. So it wouldn't be good.
This kind of sounds like what happens in Times Square with the characters. You know, you're like, are these people supposed to be here? Do they have a license? Like, did anyone do a background check? You know, I think it's like the feeling you feel when you walk into Chuck E. Cheese, like you should call the cops, but everyone seems okay with what's happening. So I don't blame the guy for calling the cops. It seems like relatively reasonable. Maybe he felt at risk of something, but I must say overall, I can't deal with the pop-up museums and experiences like overall, because they've gotten out of control. We recently went to a balloon museum, which they're really loosely using the term museum. You know, because basically it was like a gigantic ball pit with, you know, all these installations, which basically look good for Instagram. You know, people are there to take pictures, and I'm there to fear for my life in a ball pit that either I'm going to die by getting drowned in this ball pit or getting 4 communicable diseases later on. I'm not sure. But anyway, I say all the people doing these experiences that don't have the money and suck at them, and then obviously the crying kids, but primarily the individual who did not bring chocolate, because we would not be hearing about it if they did.
Did you just make crying kids a piece of shit?
For sure, it's always the kids. Come on, especially kids
Bobby.
Nowadays. Like, unless they're, you know, and I can only speak for my kids, but usually when they're crying, it's typically their fault.
Good parenting. All right, Bobby.
Because they have it pretty good, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. For me, it's not the dude who called the cops. You find yourself at the Fire Fest of pedophiles. You got to do something.
Bobby,
Right.
It was called that in the article. Not for pedophiles, it's at the Fire Fest for children. It's being called that.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. But for me, the piece of shit is anybody who brought their kid to this. If you've read Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's a metaphor for Dante's Inferno of hell. It is a trip through hell, and you get punished for all of the sins along the way. Unfortunately, stupidity wasn't one of the 7 deadly sins, or this would have been arguably the perfect Wonka experience. Like you know who'd really set up a Willy Wonka experience, and we've already
Jeffrey
talked about him on
Epstein.
this. Yeah, because he had this place that was hell. All these sins went there. Kids thought they were going to win something when they showed up, and turns out, nope, you just die, and not in a fun way. So nobody should want the Willy Wonka
I think some parents might have brought their kids to Dante's Inferno. You know, maybe they should have taken a different angle with it. They're like, this is not a chocolate factory. Let's just call it what it is. Sell those tickets. Come on.
I mean, I'm on board for that. That's just late-term abortion. But
Oh dear.
for me,
Oh dear.
the
Oh, no.
difference is, like, nobody had a question why this guy called himself Willy Wonka. Like, that's a pedophile name in and of itself. Like, I would not let my kid hang out with a dude named Willy Wonka. Would you, Pat?
Probably not.
Hey, Willy
William
Wonka's
Wonka,
gonna
yes. But yeah, when you're an adult and you're Willie still, I don't trust
Yeah,
you. You got to be
it-
William
it-
Wonka.
that Willy's gonna be a
Unless
little
he's
too
packing
free.
chocolate, I'm out. No, not happening.
Now, Bobby, I understand why. See, I'm not saying this about way, but you're not a parent. Jennifer and I are parents. Sometimes when you have your kids and you just can't find something to do on a weekend, you've done everything with them. You just want them to fucking shut up. You want to bring them somewhere they can entertain. And you also want to see something. You kind of want to go to a train wreck thing sometimes as a parent just to go, how awful is this? Whatever. And then next time, maybe the kids won't want to go out if I bring them to this bad experience. They'll be like, yeah, home is fine. So I understand why parents brought their kids to it, because their kids are like, let's go somewhere else. Like, yeah, it's Scotland. It's always raining. We suck. They're like, how about the Willie Wonka Experience? Like, whatever, that's fine. Let's go. They go to that. Now, Bobby, you are right in one point you brought up. The piece of shit is not, I don't think, the children or the parents, but there's a slight part there, because if you're really going to go for the true Willie Wonka Experience, I'm not saying the children in the movies died, but it basically was said that only one survives, like 300, when you're done. Charlie survives. Everyone else is knocked off one at a time. So why are you bringing your children there unless it's like mini Survivor, where you're like, let's all go, and only one kid makes it out at the end? That's the true experience. Being treated by shit by a guy who talks in prose the whole time, weird fucking midgets running around. There's candy, but there's also like weird, kind of elixirs that'll get you fucked up, which basically is like Jesus juice from Michael Jackson.
It's basically like boot camp for Chocolate Factory, right?
Yeah, it really was. But then you let people go walk around like Hitler's kids got to walk around and go, this is fun. And then at the end, one gets a prize while everyone's dying around them and dancing. That's basically what it was. They both had trains.
America.
There was a lot going on there. But the piece of shit in this story is Scotland. The whole place. It's garbage. The fact that this story comes out and people aren't more out. If this happened in America, we'd be more outraged. We wouldn't just be laughing on the internet. If it was anywhere else in Europe, we would be not laughing. We'd be outraged. The fact that it's Scotland, we're all like, yeah, they're dumb anyway, right? We forgot they're a place. Every time you say Scotland, what do people do? They do a weird accent. They also just talk about wearing kilts when there's nothing fun. No one ever goes, like, you yelled golf, but okay, we would have figured out golf. The reason why they started golf is because they had a bunch of fields and they were dumb and there were holes. Like, that was it. They didn't know what to do. They're like, they couldn't even come up with a good sport. They're like, well, if we just whack this, we have nothing else to do anyway. Let's whack a ball and follow it. That's what we'll do. We'll track balls. That's what we'll do. And after a while,
you say that like it's terribly different here. Like what?
We figured out way more shit. In the little bit of time we got here from Britain to come to America, we were able to swipe out an entire race of people and build our own cities. We did way better. And then we also built better golf courses than the shitty ones they have there in the rain. Our golf courses are so much more beautiful than the shitty ones there. So of course they had an experience that sucked. Everything you experience in Scotland sucks. Everything. The food sucks.
No way.
The women suck. Their hair sucks. Their skirts suck. Scotland, their accent sucks.
Did you get broken up with in Scotland? Like, what did Scotland do to you? Did they boo you off?
I don't know.
The
It's
stage?
almost like I'm trying to be funny on a podcast where everyone else isn't. Anyways.
He's Irish.
You know what happened? You know what's wrong is I've had such a good experience there. I had a great experience in Scotland. I sang Amy Winehouse.
Was it as good an
karaoke
experience as your
people
birth
love.
that you talked about that sucked? And then every time you hang out with your kids, that's
First
always
of
their
all,
fault when they cry?
That was not a birth. That was surgery. First of all, that's a different experience. I'm saying maybe I would have held it if I wasn't cut open. Anyways, we're never gonna go back to that. But no, I think it's great. They have great Indian food. Can't say much
Okay,
for
stop. What do they have that's
about
good?
another country is Indian food?
They
was on your
do. They have
team,
great
Jen, 'cause
Indian-
Pat said we weren't funny until you said that. I'm sorry.
Listen, have you tried it? It's delicious.
You know where else
Not.
it's
I
good?
like-
In India.
No.
True.
No.
But I haven't been
not-
there. I'm just saying.
You shouldn't go there. You shouldn't eat the food there. They're not sanitary.
We are planning to
They shit in
go
the
to
river.
England and go to the Harry Potter. It's not the Harry Potter experience. I think it's like the
Experience.
set or something. Hopefully,
By the
no
way-
one has to call the cops.
No, but
But-
real quick, your first argument for how great Scotland is another country's food. Case closed. I win. Okay, have you ever
You
tried
do
their
win. Okay,
Indian
okay.
food? Fuck. Did
Have you
get
ever
what you have
tried
the
it?
haggis?
There are a lot of Indian people there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really good.
yeah, they have them in Britain too, and they have them
Bangers and
here. I don't know
mash?
if you've met them. Yeah, that's Irish.
Is it? Is it
Yeah.
not Scottish? Is it not both? Or English? Is it all of them?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I know that because there's a famous Irish restaurant in Hartford, Connecticut, and on their kids' menu, they had to shut it down. They had to shut it down because it was called Kid Bangers and Mash, and people were like, "Dude, you can't." And they didn't even realize that they called it Kid Bangers, and they're like, "No, that's real." And then it was somebody said, "Oh my god," and they were like, "Oh shit, we didn't even think about how that reads." It was just Kid Bangers and Mash, which sounds like the worst puppet show of all times. The piece of shit is Scotland. Fuck you, Scotland.
Yeah.
Wish I could dispute you, but given the only information I have came from Jen, I can't fight you on that one, Pat. I'm sorry. And
The
Prairie
countryside is stunning. You know, I think the accent's sweet.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful. Beaches
once,
that you can't really get down to because they're on cliffs. If you wanted to throw yourself off the beach, just kidding.
do have one Scottish story, which is
Not even good enough for suicide. Thank you.
It might work. I don't know. Haven't tried.
I met a
Please
girl
don't do
on
that,
the-
anyone.
met a girl on the internet from Scotland, and we were sexting as it be.
She's trying to get out.
And well, she sent me a voice message, and I don't know if you know much about the Scottish accent, but trying to be sexy in it and sounding like the guy who found the silver, sing silver and gold, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer doesn't do it for me. Like, no matter how sweet your voice is with that accent, you sound like Pat.
Oh no.
Why did I get shot in this?
Are you trying to say that you wouldn't want to hook up with Pat? That's
What the
dis.
fuck?
That came
Yeah,
out of
I'm a
nowhere.
loving guy. I cuddle.
Me and
Not
90%
nice.
of Connecticut.
Boo. You're from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Amish bitch. Don't talk to me.
It's a long way to heaven. It's closer to Harrisburg.
Before we get to our
Anyway.
Is that
last
where
story,
you are now, Bobby?
No, I'm in Yonkers, so I can't really talk shit.
Yonkers.
yes, Yonkers even sounds like a place in Scotland. Yonkers, it sounds terrible.
Me
Anyway,
and Jadakiss.
real quick, Bobby, before we get to our last
Yonkers
story,
is also beautiful.
stop talking to each other. Before we get to
He's
our
gonna
last story, Jennifer, please let people know where they can follow you and what you got coming up. I know you got a show with me on Thursday at Comics. But, what else you got going on?
Sure. You can find me at Jen is Funny, and I have comics coming up on Thursday. Tonight I'm going to be doing a few open mics in New York, so at me if you're in the city. I'm also I got into Boston Comedy Festival, so March
Congratulations,
25th.
that's awesome.
I'll be doing that. I'm super stoked. And then the 9th, I'll be at, hold on. Where am I going to be? It's in Berlin, the Pine Loft
Germany?
on the 9th. Yeah, I'm going to Germany. The Germans.
Happy
And then the
birthday,
Industry
Germany.
Room on the 23rd in New York. That's in
Nice. A
Midtown,
lot of
near
things
all the
coming up.
furry people in Times Square. But yeah, find me at jennisfunny.com or on Instagram. Yeah, and I'll see you Thursday, Pat. I'm excited.
Is it two N's in Jen for them to follow you, right? Is that two N's?
Yes, that's annoying. Jen _is_funny, FUNNY. And then you can decide if I'm funny or not. But it's been great with you guys. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank
Been
you. We'll
fun.
get to one more story, but Bobby, real quick, plug some stuff before we get to the last story.
So this weekend I will be in North Carolina at a comedy club. I don't know any other
Go
details.
see Charlotte.
Yeah, it'll be Friday and Saturday. So if you're in the state of North Carolina, hit me up and I'll figure out details for you. Following week, I'll be doing guest spots up at Yuck Yucks in Toronto. And make sure you're following us, both Pat and I, on YouTube. I'm the one putting out the clips on there and on Instagram. And Christian, who's watching, brought up a good point, Pat, that I'm not telling people where to find the show as well. So I'm going to make sure I tag your YouTube channel. And I think I'm also going to tag Avery Quinn in every post.
Okay. I don't think
What do you think
Christian's the
about
only
that?
one who told you that you're not promoting where the show is as well. I think someone else might have mentioned that a couple times to you when you put up the clips. Every time I write underneath, what the fuck is this?
I'm pretty sure
What are-
it was just Christian. I can't think of anybody else, mainly him. But what do you think about the Avery Quinn tag every time? I think that'll be fun.
I love Avery, so that's fine if you want to tag him. I don't think he'll like it. We'll have to have him on soon when he's available. And I'm not going to bash Avery. He's a wonderful man.
Me neither. That's why I want to get him involved.
Nice. This weekend I will be at Thursday via Comics, of course. On Saturday at 1:00 p.m. I will be on the WPLR float with Mike Lapatino. So if you're at the Milford Parade, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, come see me on a float with a band and waving and everything. There's a giant PLR float. I'll be there. And then at 8:00 at night, I will be at Jimmy's Place in Seymour. Tickets are still available to that. Come out and see that show as well. My album recording it will be happening August 8th through 10th at Comics Roadhouse. I'll be headlining the weekend and recording my album. Both doing audio and video this time, which will be nice. So please come out. I heard people got a lot of buzz for it already. So we get closer and closer. They'll be selling the tickets. But put that out in your ear now to get ready for August 8th through 10th when I'm recording my 4th comedy album there. Bobby, we've been talking for a couple weeks now about Shane Gillis when he was going to be on Saturday Night Live, and then when he did Saturday Night Live. And last week we talked about, is he the guy who's saving a lot of things? Now, this week, as an experiment, I decided, I don't watch it live when it's on because I have things going on Saturdays, but Peacock the next day plays Saturday Night Live without the commercial, which is fantastic. So the next morning, when I watched Shane Gillis, I watched it that way. I decided this week to see if I would watch it again to see if they capitalized on it, because a lot of new faces, like we said, watched that. So I wanted to see, could Shane get people to watch it? Now, the guest this week was Sydney Sweeney, who's well-known. She's the hot thing of the moment. All young boys that age love her, whatever. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She was also in that movie that's terrible right now, Madam Web. And I found myself watching it and realizing I liked the skits a lot. And as the sketches were good, of course she was going to be good in it. She's an actress. They had some very funny stuff. And I enjoyed it. And here I was bashing everyone at first, saying Shane Gillis is going to be a one and done. No one's going to watch. But it literally got me to remember I used to like Saturday Night Live, and I watched it again. And then I read a couple articles about the viewership, and the viewership did stay about the same. Now, yes, she has popularity, and yes, they're getting her the same way they would Shane to draw people in. But did Shane get people to watch Saturday Night Live again? Did Saturday Night Live use him? Is he really becoming the savior of things like Bud Light, like Netflix, and all these things that this pasty white man from Pennsylvania, who looks like he should be from Glasgow, Scotland, is saving things more than anything else? In a world where everyone thinks you got to have everything woke and everything unicorn to save stuff, are again straight white men saving America. Is that what's happening here? Who's the piece of shit in this story? Is it Shane Gillis for continuously being a savior when he really just looks like he has Down syndrome? Is it Saturday Night Live for no longer making a good show, but just hiring people that people want to stare at, either a funny guy or a hot lady or whatever there? Is it Saturday Night Live for making people think they're not funny because the first cold open sketch is always a terrible political thing, and then all their good sketches afterwards, once you're like, I'm turning this shit off, are very funny. They had a tremendous sketch with Sweeney and this other girl were playing interns at a police station solving cold cases with their phones because they could just Google it and find the person in 2 seconds. Great sketch if you check it out. It was really funny. They did good stuff with most of the sketches on that show. Is it me and all other people that were like, we gave up on this show, and because some dopey man was on it, we're like, now we're gonna watch it. And then the next week, like, oh, you got me at dopey. It's by knowing who we are as white men. They're like, oh, they'll watch this Shane guy and they'll come back for a pretty girl. They're just dangling it in front of us again to getting us to watch shows. Who's the piece of shit in the story? Bobby, go ahead first.
I don't think there's a piece of shit in this story.
Okay.
I think there's a bit of a misperception. Like, I think the reason why people, like, part of the people watched SNL as a win for Shane, but part of it watched it to see if SNL could be funny without, or could go back to just being funny instead of trying to have a message behind it, especially with basically the opposing team's captain there, right? If you think about political messages, and I think what you saw was Shane was funny. He still kind of had their message. He mocked Trump a little bit. We talked about it, but like kind of showed the old school SNL where it was just making fun of a situation rather than sending a message or having a perspective. And that's what Shane's been good at. He did it with Bud Light. He didn't come out anti-trans. He just was like, I like Bud Light. I'm sticking by it. And they made him their guy. Now the people who jumped back on board because of it may have a different message, but Shane's just doing what he likes. He's not attacking. He's not putting a message out there. And I think there's such a desire in the American populace to get back to that idea of just, there aren't teams. This is funny. We disagree politically, but we can both laugh at this. Like, I bring it up every one of these we've done. But the fact that the president crapped himself in front of the Pope and everybody across the country didn't have a field day with that drives me nuts. Like, it's so divided that it's hilarious. The most powerful man in the world shit himself in front of the biggest religious leader in the world, and nobody talked about it. Like, is that a sign he's the ant? You know what I mean? Like, there's so much fun to be had, but because everything's become so politicized, you can't even do that. You know what I mean? So for me,
I think that might be considered elder abuse, Bobby. I think that's different.
so is the fact that they're considering getting visiting angels because the Secret Service can't keep up with the president so much. Like, they're getting the nurses in that are there to spend time with somebody when they're senile. It's bad. Like, and if
But
there
wait,
was
I have a question. Did Shane
ahead.
get let go from? Was he on SNL before and then was let go, or was he? Wasn't there a history there? Because I don't know the full history.
Yeah, we had brought that up, but yeah, but to catch you up quickly, Shane Gillis was hired to be on Saturday Night Live, and even before he got to be on one episode, they did background checks. They found things that they found were like angry. Not Lorne Michaels. Lorne Michaels was supporting him the whole time, but higher ups were like he was doing Asian voices and making gay jokes and stuff on his podcast. So when they fleshed it out, like, oh, we can't have this guy on here, and it became this huge thing, and he basically got canceled. And then this was the big hero story where a couple of years later he's so big and famous that they need him to come back to be the host, so he came back to be part of this and got past all that. So yeah, that was the whole reason why he came back last week, to go full circle in a couple of years, and now they're starting to get viewership again. So it's not only because of him, but I think it's also because they're not caring anymore about what perception is. They're caring more about what people just want to stare at. So that's
Well,
his
what's
little
funny,
fun
I
story.
think and also I think obviously it's meant to be a unifier, and we're meant to, like, play with the line, and that's kind of like our role, right? Like, I think people have to get back to, like, who comedians are, what we do, what we're here to, like, be doing, because I think if you're just going to judge everyone on everything they say, I mean, it's not like they hold presidents accountable or Congress people, they're not like doing full background checks on them. They're like, well, you tweeted this back in 1995 when you were 22. I mean, they may be doing that, but no one seems to give a shit.
They
so I
cover
don't
it
know
up
why.
better. When they do that, they filter it and get rid of it so you don't see it. That's the difference.
And so maybe that's the lesson. Like, once a comedian becomes big, like, you have to have someone come and scrub your social media for, like, something remotely offensive.
Right.
I don't know.
He wasn't big yet when he got hired. He was traveling, but he wasn't at the level. He made himself big after all this. This actually weirdly helped him become big because he got so much attention that he became a household name because everyone talked about him. So,
yeah, I've never met him. I know people who have, like, been on the comedy scene with him for a while, and they really like him a lot. I know that he has a lot of fanfare among comedians. That's for sure. So I imagine he's a good guy. Deep down, just, rough time.
oh yeah, he's great.
Right.
But this isn't anything about him. This is more about the exact opposite. Him being like the guy that they went to after getting rid of him and came back, but now drawing eyes again. And a lot of people thought it was just like a way to just get people in for a one and done, but it actually proved to be quite opposite with a lot of people watching Saturday Night Live again this week. Bobby, did you watch any of Saturday Night Live?
no, I didn't.
Do you find
I watched
Sydney
it, but
Sweeney?
similar to you, I fall asleep after the monologue.
Yeah, her monologue was tough, but that obviously as an actress, it was written for her, and they kind of just used jokes about her on the internet that she had to go with. So as I'd rather watch a comic's monologue, but I'd rather watch an actress be in sketches than a comedian try to act. So like that, but the sketches were fine, and I enjoyed that. Yes, and for everyone pounding, yeah, we're having work done downstairs. So that's what it is. There's no one at the door. There's work being done downstairs, and I need to end the podcast soon. But because there's just pounding happening down there. But so the piece of shit in the story is me, because I thought that nobody would watch Saturday Night Live when people have been watching it for 35, 40 fucking something years, whatever it is. How dare I think some white guy saved it? He didn't save it. It just got on my radar because I follow dumb people. And I believe that when Shane's career does go down the toilet years from now, they should have a Glasgow experience of Shrek, where Shane should play Shrek in a warehouse and people go visit him for $35. And I think that would be full circle there. Bobby, as always, this is great. Next, on Wednesday, we have comedian Pops Darren will be joining us on Wednesday. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on today. We really had fun with you. I appreciate you coming on and figuring out who the piece of shit is. Sorry that the birth of your child
Thank you.
wasn't everything you wanted it to be. But hopefully
It was
you like them now.
Yeah, I love them. They came together, so it was a
They
unique
did. It was a
experience.
package
And
deal. That's always good when they do that.
Package
One
deal.
didn't-
Boom, boom.
According to Bobby, one didn't eat the other or anything. That's great. Wonderful.
No, but one
Bo-
tried stealing food from the other while in there. Yeah, they had
We'll
to come
have to
out.
have you
'cause
back
one was
on to hear
going
that
rogue.
piece of shit story. Who's the piece of shit?
Yeah.
Baby, you ate the food. Baby, you stole the food. Or someone
It's
else.
continued throughout his life. No, it started early.
Bobby
Anyway,
usually has.
thank you very
Bobby
much. I
usually-
really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bobby usually sends us off with a inspirational quote. Bobby, go ahead.
So we talked about Mike Ruzioni and how he won the Cold War, but let's not forget that
We didn't
Jimmy
talk
Craig-
about that. He was the goal. My friends don't know. He was the fucking goalie in goddamn the
No, he
Olympics
wasn't.
in 1984.
No, he was the
goalie?
captain of the team who scored the
I don't
game-winning
care.
goal against the USSR that ended up winning the Cold War. The goalie, who we're going to talk about, was Jimmy Craig, because
Right.
Coach Herb Brooks made them all take a psych test. Jimmy Craig was going to quit, and he goes, "Is this because I didn't take your psych test, Coach?" And Herb Brooks went, "No, I want the goalie back who didn't take my psych test. So be the goalie today who didn't take the psych test. Stand for something, I don't know, and don't be a piece of shit."
I shouldn't have ended on that fucking thing I just posted, but all right.
More